G'day, listeners. Welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. It's that time of the week where I get to hang out with some really cool sailors and unfortunately have to share that time with my two idiot mates. So first up joining me is my good mate, Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
3 weeks in a row, I think. Sailing's the winner.
Sailing's the winner. You've been actual sailing.
What a week in sailing.
Oh, the whole sport of sailing. No, you're right. It's been amazing. Amazing.
Everything.
It's a great sport, isn't it? Great.
Oh, mate, exciting and, so much to talk about. Looking forward to tonight because there's some people more knowledgeable than me coming on.
Yeah,
it's good.
Loving it. Let's bring in the other bloke.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bice.
Speaking of which, BP, here he is. Yeah, it's got him. Mate, seriously, I have now related to you, BP.
Oh, really?
I've been sailing.
I thought you did that 20 years ago. I thought you did that 25 years ago.
Yeah, that was your sister.
Jordan just spat it out. For all those who want to know, Nick Bice dated my sister 25 years ago.
Greatest start ever.
Anyway, I've been sailing in Etchell all day.
Yeah.
And I now realise where you are in life.
Yeah,
just
great,
beating your head against a brick wall. Bang.
Yeah.
Bang. Bang.
Yeah, but I'm doing it with 30 other boats,
with a
mate.
bunch of absolute crackers.
Yeah.
Donnie and Carlin.
Yeah,
we actually managed a second overall in the SA state titles.
Oh,
and a big shout out to our good mates, Robin Doosan.
Yes.
David Snowd, who managed to take out the state titles.
Let's just reframe that. That's Fritz and Snowdy.
Correct. Fritz and Snowdy. But the difference being yesterday, I went offshore on the TP and holy shit, boys, I got to tell you, it was on like Donkey Kong.
Really?
30, 35 knots, reaching 100 true, doing 20 to 25 knots on a 52-footer.
Oh, that
Mate,
sounds fun.
I got to. That was unbelievable. But
how's the water
in saying that, to go upwind at 4.9 knots today was pretty enjoyable.
How's the water ingress integrity of that old girl? Has she got?
Ever heard of an offshore colander?
What are you doing tomorrow, Bicey? I'm going offshore in a colander.
No, just bailing the boat out.
Oh God! So you want to have some good bilge pumps on action, but no, hey, they're good boats, aren't they? Still, they're still fun. Doesn't matter.
That's cool.
A TP or a 52?
TP till full. The whole lot.
I've got one question for you boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know we're tight on time with all we've got coming up and our guest coming up, but I'm going to put it out there, a question, and we're going to answer in the next episode. What is the best off the beach dinghy class? I'm putting my hand up now. Sharpie.
Oh, no.
Sharpie.
No, I love the Sharpie. They're a great boat. Great boat.
I'm gonna put my hand up for Jordan. Harley 16.
Harley T16.
I was thinking about I took the bride windsurfing today down on the local river, and I was thinking, I could get a Hartley out now. I was just spent the whole day just thinking about that. Yeah. She did a magnificent job, I'll just say. Just zooming around, having a grand old time. She had been taught to windsurf many years ago by Phil McGain, who was our special guest, episode 22.
Handy. He's pretty handy.
Pretty handy, yeah. Multiple world champion and 30-year pro. And he actually sent me a note yesterday saying, "Did you catch that footage from Jaws mid-January of the windsurfing?" And I Googled. I hadn't seen it. I suggest Google windsurfing mid-January at Jaws. There is one hell of a wipe out there. Phil's house is just literally Jaws is at the bottom of his house. If you ever want to go to Maui in Hawaii, you can stay with him at a place. Just Google "Little Piece of Paradise." But yeah, so
yeah. But by the way,
go on.
So back to the original question, and we're not going to know right now, but it's going to be a debate in a further episode.
It's a great question.
Best off the shore dinghy class?
The one we're going to design is the answer.
Sharpie.
Hey,
Sharpie.
boys, you haven't brought something up.
What's that?
And you haven't actually brought it up. You haven't brought up the Sydney to Auckland virtual.
Oh, well.
Go on, bring it up.
BP, how you going? Stephen Brace, he is giving you an absolute toweling.
Don't bring it up. Mate, I've had to sack my shore crew. First of all, they didn't pay the bills.
That makes it hard.
I got no foils.
Always up to the owner.
Don't have a code 0.
Makes it hard.
Don't have a code 0. Don't have the navigation system. Don't have radio.
I'll tell you what you do have, BP, though.
What's that?
A shit ton of excuses.
I did actually laugh with Stephen today on Messenger, saying we're going to actually run with this. This is pretty funny. But
we didn't do it for the drama.
No. Keep going.
To be honest with you, I just think it's funny as it's just one of those. I did overtake 116,000 boats. 16,000 boats last night. So I'm coming back.
Yeah, you definitely come from behind, BP. That's definitely your way.
Yeah, mind you, I was actually out sailing on another boat while I was meant to start on this boat. So
fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
All good.
Oh, good.
Before we bring in the guest boys, you know how I love to find useless facts and information. You know, that's one of my little things. I'm just going to drop one on you guys and the listeners to see what you think. All right.
Okay, go on.
Okay. Over a 200-year period, 3 ships have been wrecked at the same location on the Welsh coast. So the exact same location, 3 ships have been wrecked over the last 200 years. Each wreck occurred on the same date, the 5th of December. Each wreck had only one survivor.
It's getting scary.
And each of those survivors had the exact same name. All 3 survivors were Hugh Williams. How freaky is that one?
Wow.
I think I want to not go on with the show, and I want to actually end it right there on that.
Well, I was just going to say, if you've got a mate whose name is Hugh Williams who wants to go on a cruise with you,
Don't.
Or do. He's a survivor.
Yeah.
Or
he'll survive,
do
not
it.
you.
Or do it, but
Or just
nowhere.
hold on to his leg.
Yeah. Or do it nowhere near the 5th of December on the Welsh coast.
Oh, dear. All right, that was
Very
fun.
cool. Very cool.
All right, let's bring in our special guest, and he's sitting there waiting, and we don't want to hold him for too long. So we're really focused on the Vendee here, and our special guest has done a show every day of the Vendee, keeping everyone updated with what was going on. He has competed in the Vendee himself in 2004, 2005, done the Route de One, the Transat Jacques Vabre, the Extreme Sailing Series, the Archipelago Raid, the Hobarts, the Figaro, competed in the Whitbread, now the Volvo, and he did the Global Challenge, won that. And he also did for TV a recreation of Clapton Bly's 4,000-mile open boat journey. It's called Mutiny. It's something that we're going to talk Vendee with him, but we're going to get him back on to talk about all this amazing other stuff that he's done. He's a super cool guy. We know him really well. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Conrad Humphreys. Conrad, thanks for joining us, mate. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, Jordan. Nice. It's been a while.
Hey, good to see you. And for the listeners, they wouldn't know what exactly is going on here, but here's a couple of idiot podcasters from Bar Karate just using their webcams, whereas Conrad's got the full deal rolling. What are you running over there, mate? You've got the microphone hanging down. You got
I've got that was last week's purchase actually. I was listening to your nice rasping tones and thinking that's not the Bitey I know. You must have invested in a decent camera and mic. So yeah, I've got a decent mic and a reasonably good camera. But it's we're all stuck trying to earn a crust in this part of the world behind screens. So let's up the game a little bit.
And behind the screen and in front of the screen, you have certainly been, certainly during this edition of the Vendee.
Yeah, it's not often I follow it as intensely as this, but I sort of decided I'd do a little bit of practicing behind the screen with this race, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And I got really into it, got really into analysing the weather. I was playing the virtual game at the same time, so I thought, well, if I'm spending a bit of time doing the virtual game, I might as well do a little bit of commentary. And 80 days. I wasn't expecting it to last as long as that, but there you go.
Did you enjoy it? Like the commentary side first? Did you enjoy doing that element?
Yeah, I've only played the virtual race and the Route de Rhum before, but I wasn't expecting to kind of hang in for the whole of the Vendee. But actually, that game is amazing. I mean, there's 1 million players, and I managed to cross the line in the top 1%, which sounds fantastic, but it's 10,000 players in front of you, so it's pretty serious.
I'm not sure if you're aware, Conrad, but we have one of the best amongst us, and that's BP.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that later when we talk about a few other topics. But he's one that knows the virtual game. But 1 million players.
1 million.
Is it like I don't know? Is that in virtual world or gaming world? Is that normal, or this is completely over the top?
I have no idea. I'm not a sort of big gaming person, but certainly if you're talking about the whole presenting and virtual stuff, that's the world to look at. Because they're all fully kitted up with their their cameras and their mics, and they're all chatting to each other and so on. But it's pretty impressive. I have to say, the race is obviously getting bigger and bigger following, but yeah, virtual regatta really. It grew nearly 100% from the previous year. So it's doing well.
If you look at the numbers, it's 1 million competitors. Let's say 10% of them pay for the full package, which is €14.99. It's pretty full on. It's a big return for him.
Yeah, he's done well, and I think there's a lot more to come with the whole inshore stuff. Yeah, it's a nice little business.
Yeah. I must say, and I mean, we've gone a bit sideways here, but who won? Who actually won overall in the virtual?
It was a French dude who won. In fact, I got chatting to a guy called Matthew Johnson, who's an Aussie.
Yeah, Matt. We all know Matt very well.
Yeah.
Who won the last time?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we ended up... We were sailing pretty close together and chatting away about various things, and dived up north to go and pick up the watch. So if you went through Point Nemo, you could bag yourself a nice 10 grand watch from the watch sponsor. So we lost a few miles in for the watch, but then ended up sort of pretty much having a sail all the way up the Atlantic together.
And who got the watch?
I don't know. It wasn't me. I think one of the top French guys managed to do that as well. So,
in the virtual game? There's no there's no French fishing boats as you get near the finish, just to try and alter the outcome.
There's no French fishing boats, and also, as I discovered, I thought in one of the depressions in the south, and this was at the time when I was in the top 100. I thought, there's a big breeze in the south. I'm gonna pile on down into that, and I found myself doing 6-7 knots in sort of 40 knots of breeze. So, what's going on there? That can't be. And then, but yeah, no fishing boats, and of course, you can.
So what was it? A virtual fishing net, or something you hooked?
Who knows? No, I think I found out that actually above a certain wind range, and probably quite rightly,
promoting safe sailing.
Yeah, you were bare poles, maybe just a storm jib.
Wow.
I think I was unfortunately, I looked at my sails and I was bare poles. You're right.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
Oh, it reminds me of the 2001 Volvo.
Yeah.
Mate, there's so much I want to talk to you about yourself, but I mean, we really wanted to talk to you about the Vendee. So I really, 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 really want to talk about that journey you did on the recreation of the Captain Bligh's journey. It's an amazing story, and I think we'll leave that for next time. But it is, if you've never read that. There's a few books about that journey and story and what happened, and it truly is an amazing journey of seamanship, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's an incredible voyage, and there's been a couple of recreations of that voyage, but we got the chance to do it with the sort of full deal. Built a boat specifically for it, which is down in my lockup, which is quite nice. I managed to pick that one up at the end of it, and 4,000 miles in an open boat. It's the second longest voyage I've done at sea. The Vendee was 104 days, and this crazy thing was 60 days in a little open boat.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll come back to that. But I just
That's almost a show on its own, isn't it?
We'll come back. Well, it's definitely a show on its own. We'll come back to it, but we'll also put out all the info on where everyone can find out exactly what happened.
Yeah, and for listeners,
warm them up for the next episode for sure.
Make sure you go and read it. It's amazing story. All right, so overall opinion of the Vendee. Was it a good Vendee? Was it an amazing Vendee? Or was it just an awesome Vendee?
Yeah. I mean, it was first rate. It was certainly, I think, the best race we've seen. And there's been some humdingers. I mean, I know it's gradually grown in stature. 33 boats taking the start line, the highest ever number of finishers, the highest ever number of boats finishing within 24 hours of each other, 10 boats or whatever it was. And some incredible stories in amongst it. A big rescue in the south. The 2015 generation boats beating the new foilers. I mean, it had everything. The non-foilers doing as well as they did. I mean, they kept us all riveted for days and days on end. So, yeah, it's been a race that's really really captured the imagination, I think, and I think it'll do a lot to really promote the Amoca class, perhaps internationally, in a way that hasn't done before.
So, just before we go even further, maybe just for the listeners, give us a little brief on exactly what you did throughout the Vendee, what you ran, how many people you had on, all the guests, all the analysis. That'd be good. Just I started just doing some interviews, and initially I was going to try and do one each day, and then realised that was going to be pretty hard work to maintain for the full 80 days. So yeah, three interviews a week, and real mixed bag of people. I mean, I sort of just reached into the black book and thought, well, actually, who could tell an interesting story? Who's perhaps working on the team side? Who's working on the communications? Who's perhaps done the race before? And then I ended up, with people like Robin Knox-Johnson joining me, who I have to say was anyone listening should go back and find that one, because he not only he's 81, he's not only completely current with what is going on with the race, but he's halfway through the interview, he kind of lights a fag, pulls himself a big whiskey, and we really get into it. I just thought, what an absolute legend. He just had his COVID jab as well.
Pretty cool. Well, Bryce and I bumped into him on the dock one day, didn't we, Bryce? And
in Portsmouth.
Yeah, in Portsmouth.
And he's just down there playing with the old with his boat that he actually did the Golden Globe in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just playing around with it, and just stood on the dock, had a chat.
It was nice.
Fantastic guy. But so out of that, best interview you reckon you did?
Well, probably him actually was the best one, but they were all really good. I mean, talking to Mike Golding and Dee, obviously really knowledgeable of the race. I really enjoyed chatting to my old mucker Joff Brown, who's been looking after Pip's boat, did all the preparation for her.
Yeah. Yep.
And obviously we go back because he did that same role during my Vendee Globe. So and he's been around these boats for many campaigns. Looked after Mike before me. So it was good catching up with him, and that was probably the nicest thing, was actually the chance to kind of catch up with a load of old friends.
I must admit that's one of the things that is great about one of the things we love about bar karate is you get to chat with some good mates and talk about yachting. And especially during these COVID times, you don't get that opportunity to do it in the bar. So, hence it's a good thing to do. And your general observations, Conrad, throughout the race, were you impressed with some more than others? Some people disappointed you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to be impressed by everyone in that race course. It is such a difficult race to get to the start of, and whilst we're seeing some some amazing top end campaigns, multi-million-pound budgets, there's there's stories throughout the entire race. People who've the efforts they've gone to try and get to the start. But I think the standout for me, probably Damien Seguin. He sailed absolutely, nailed his strategy, sailing a boat that's never really performed, found, some completely new speed in that boat. And of course, he's physically disabled. So, he's got no hand on one side. So he is the ultimate single-handed sailor.
We've used that joke a few times, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure. And he was a standout. Jean Le Cam, always a standout. Funniest guy. I mean, if anyone,
true character.
If any of us could actually understand him. I mean, I've heard a few French people say they can't understand him either, but certainly, he had me in stitches during the 2004 race. I remember going up the Atlantic, there he is sort of leading the race, or he's in the top three anyway. And he'd kind of, I think he'd just come out of the doldrums and he'd lost a few miles. So he called all of his sails, he calls his boat Hubert after the guy that built the boat, Mitch Des, his brother who tragically died. And he'd given names to all every sort of name, the J2 had a name, the mainsail had a name, and he sort of called them all together for a bit of a team meeting going up the Atlantic. And he's a cool dude. Very, very funny.
Well, Damien, just so you know, for the listeners, he finished 7th and arrived within probably 18 hours of the overall adjusted lead. So he was one of the 8 boats that finished within 19 hours.
Could have you ever imagined 8 boats arriving within one day?
No, I mean you normally have got a couple of breakouts. We saw it with Mish Des and Ellen. Obviously, we saw it again with Alex Thompson and Armel Leclerc. But these guys were all, no one had got a clear breakout. In fact, Maitre Coq, Yannick, it was pretty comfortable out of the Southern Ocean, but you looked ahead to the North Atlantic and just thought, well, it's just a complete nightmare. Everyone's going to pile in behind him.
That's it. We need to get to this actually.
I just quickly on that. And being like part of this whole transition with the Volvo Ocean Race to the Ocean Race and the 65s, which had this super close competitive race, and then the move to the IMOCAs, and a big concern was how close or how far away the IMOCAs are going to be. And I got to say, I'm literally blown out of the water seeing what I've seen here. With so many boats being so close and so many different generations and different styles of sailing being so close. It's interesting.
It's really, really interesting. And I chatted to Bauer Becking during the show, and he was doing, I think he was just doing some routing with a Volvo 65 and actually had them comfortably ahead. So, whether or not that would have maintained that all the way through the race, but there was, the foilers never really got the conditions in the Atlantic that everyone expected them to. They were designed and built to kind of really just get down the Atlantic, hook into a weather system early, retract their foils or stay pretty safe in the south, and then put the afterburners on coming back up the Atlantic. And that never really happened for them. So I think probably a Volvo 65 well sailed would certainly have given them a run for the money if not beaten them.
It's interesting because
it's controversial, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
That one.
I love it. But I mean, it was unique conditions. There was a couple of times where it did look like someone was going to jump a weather system in front, but it never happened. And then given that we saw the sinking and of Kevin Escoffier, and have I got that right? Sorry, I got a mental blank.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Yep. Sorry. And just the three boats that had time adjustments. So for those, Boris had 6 hours, Yannick had 10 hours, 15 minutes, and Jean Le Cam had 16 hours and 15 minutes. If you're Yannick and Jean Le Cam and Boris, your job as you come back up the Atlantic is not to make any decisions except stay with the fleet, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they strategically had a little bit more bandwidth to play because of those time allowances, but it was really interesting. I mean, Boris throughout the entire race, seemed to stay really comfortable within his kind of comfort zone and strategically just hang in there really well. But the critical part for me was that final week coming into the finish. And there was definitely an opportunity for Yannick and for Louis and some of those back next group to split from the lead guys. They were always going to be coming in with more pressure. Historically, if you look at the finish of all the Vendee Globes, north to south, if you're in the north, generally you come in to the Bay of Biscay in a better position.
Yep.
And Cape Finisterre is not a great place to be.
Tricky place to sail, yeah.
It's tricky. It's people talk about
as in Cape Finisterre where Charlie was sitting off the edge of.
Yeah.
I mean, they were talking about a sort of acceleration zone through there, but it's a big old lump of land. It gets its own sort of micro weather systems, and I've really fancied Yannick's opportunity. He always like he was going to pile north, and he went aggressively to the north. Louis sort of came back a little bit and played the middle ground, but it was a great move, and from probably 3 or 4 days out, it looked like it was Yannick's race if he could maintain those speeds. And of course, he's in the Southern Ocean. He was fast, really fast. Seems to be very comfortable with that boat, doing sort of 450, 480 mile days, and he just piled into the finish and won the race.
What's your feeling on the timing adjustments? Were they fair?
I think they were fair. I mean, it's always a difficult one, I see more than anybody else. Regarding to sort of how you should, probably reward these sorts of activities. We want everyone to be encouraged to go back and do rescues, so I think they were fair. I didn't sort of follow obviously closely the other boats like Yannick and Boris in terms of what they did, but clearly, Jean Le Cam, just amazing. And then of course Jean had Kevin on board for quite some time, and you can imagine the intensity for him probably shifted a bit whilst Kevin was on board. So it's really difficult to know.
Do you reckon Kevin could have understood John Le Cam?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure anyone really understands Jean. They just sort of nod politely, and yeah, I mean, just amazing. I'm not sure if it was the translation in the French to English media, but Jean Le Cam talked about the three, non-foilers, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but they had the old. I think he called himself the old dog, the disabled, and the wanker. We're talking about.
Is that direct translation?
Yeah, we're talking about the young guy, Benjamin Dutroux, and I was thinking to myself, is that a French translation, or I wonder why he's called him that. But anyway, yeah, but he was obviously a big fan of the three non-foiling boats, and also, I think the point he was trying to make is that for anyone trying to get into this race, break into this race, you don't need tens of millions of dollars to take part. His boat was, his whole campaign would have been, less than $500,000 euros, and probably a lot less than that.
I think that's a really good point to bring up. I mean, we mentioned this earlier in the piece that these non-foilers, could have a chance in certain weather conditions. And, if you look at the results, they definitely did. And it's a really good point to say that, to go through all of the preparation, to go through all of your, trials and working to get into this race, it is still an achievable dream or a goal for a lot more people than people really think.
Yeah, it is, and you only have to look at the sort of various competitors in this race, people like Pip Hare and Alexia Barra.
Yep. Alan Rara. Yep.
That's right.
Sebastian Destremo.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's some stories, with all of these guys.
Didac Costa, I mean, just a little one on the side. Didac Costa, Alan Rara, Pip Hare all sailed in the mini race that I organised in Valencia. So there's three guys and girls that have been focusing on this for nearly 9 years. Yeah.
It's and that's the great thing about the way the IMOCA class has structured itself. Everyone was a bit nervous when the foils and so on. Would it really kind of split the class and create sort of two distinct tiers? But I think the Vendee is the Vendee. It's a hard race to finish, and anything can happen. And everyone will say that in 4 years' time, a foiling boat will beat a non-foiling boat. But it was just great to see how competitive the non-foilers were.
Hey, Conrad, I know we kind of spoke about we're going to get you on at a later date to talk about your journey, but you just said there it's a hard race to finish, but it's probably an even harder race to start, right? Yeah.
I mean, in France, it's another one. I mean, most of us have done some sailing in France, and you realise just how popular not only this event is, of course, the Route de Rhum and some of these other big races like the Transat Jacques Vabre. They've got the television coverage. They've got the French sponsors know what the value of these races, know the return they're going to get. Of course, outside of France, it's not quite the same, and so it's difficult to build really competitive campaigns outside. Alex Thompson's done an incredible job with Boss to retain them for 18 years or something, and everyone's seen how hard.
I'd love to see his wardrobe, by the way.
Yeah.
I think every time the sponsorship gets renewed, they need to extend the house just a little bit further, just to build the wardrobe bigger.
I think we got to see that wardrobe. I think we got to see that wardrobe this time round, didn't we? All these sort of pinks coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful set of clothes that were made for this race.
I must admit, he was finely dressed every time he was on camera. So
yeah,
must have been
well
part of the deal, obviously.
So we did some modelling a few days out just based on the time adjustments, and we had Yannick coming in first, and we had Boris coming in second, Charlie third, Louis on fourth, and Thomas Riount in fifth, and then Jean Le Cam next. So we sort of were pretty close. Obviously, Boris had a bit of bad luck coming into that finish, but yeah, we were pretty comfortable with the way things turned out. With Boris, we're big fans of Boris. He did an amazing job in terms of providing a lot of information and video off the boats and really sharing the existence. And but the thing that was mentioned, and I'm not sure if you guys saw it, he said he had all his alarms switched on, so his radar, his AIS, and the look forward thing. What's it called? Gloria, is it?
Oscar.
Oscar, thank you. And
yeah, that's Gloria's brother.
Yeah, that's right. It's a new project we're working on, Gloria. Anyway, he had no alarms. He said he had no alarms. So I'm intrigued. You know, there's obviously a bit of banter going on saying the French sent out a fishing boat to slow him down, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, none of his alarms went off. And I'm intrigued by that. Have you guys ever come into that situation?
Well, yeah. I mean, that coastline is not full of French, but also full of Spanish fishing boats as well. It's a really difficult one. I mean, we've seen obviously Alex, waiting outside the race before the start, being run down by a fishing boat. In my race in 2004-5, I'd lost all power, so I lost my generator in the Southern Ocean, but then I lost my main engine in the final sort of 1,000 miles from the finish, and so I was running on absolutely next to no power for the final sort of 1,000 miles. And so I came into that bay with unable to light the boat at all, and I had this idea that I'd snap all these little these emergency snap lights, and I'd kind of put them on the boat so you could light the boat up a little bit. And I think it just confused the hell out of the fishing boats.
Phosphorus.
Which way I was going.
Look at that flying phosphorus.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, the boat that was coming out to meet me with all my friends and family on almost run me over. But on the way in, that would have been quite a story, wouldn't it? You get that the race ends by your friends and family. You'd never talk to them again, would you?
It's crazy though. It is high risk. The other thing that's high risk, I guess, is we saw a lot of damage, particularly heading south down the Atlantic as we got close to South Africa. What have our thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I did a piece on this. There's a lot of debris that comes around in the currents, comes sort of down from the eastern side of the around the Cape and gets swept into the Atlantic. It's also huge migratory routes for wildlife around there. And in fact, one of the guys that I interviewed was a marine biologist. He specializes in migratory, big pelagic species. And actually, even just the sheer number of great white sharks, most people think great whites, warm water species, they only sort of stay in around the warmer waters. But, they've tracked great whites migrating down to the Kerguelen Islands. So it's historically been a difficult place. And a lot of people who have collisions end up going into Cape Town around that spot. And it's something that, I think race organisers probably in the future do need to think about in terms of when times of the year that there's going to be some big species, on migratory routes down there. It's difficult because obviously, that time of year, it's the feeding season for whales and so on. I'm fairly sure that Sam Davis would have hit a whale looking at the damage she suffered to her boats. When I broke my rudder, I'm pretty sure it was a whale or a shark, something similar. So and that really dramatic footage. I don't know if you remember it, but the French guy whose name escapes me in the previous race, he hit a whale. The whale actually surfaced on camera at the back of the boat, and it was all caught on camera.
Oh, yeah.
And it almost ripped his keel off, and that was, he was in the Southern Ocean, had to abandon.
Then, of course, we've got the Sunfish Union, as we refer to.
Yeah.
The Sunfish Union are a collective group of sunfish that travel around, and actually they're not migratory. They're actually looking for yacht races. They have
They see the notice a race. We're heading to Cape Town.
They have some form of direct link to our notice of races and sailing instructions, and they're a pain.
Yeah, and of course they're really, slow and can't really get out of the way. I mean, these onboard systems, like the Oscar and the forward-looking scanners and so on, they've got limits to their probably. When you're talking about fishing boats, that's the sort of thing they should have been able to avoid for poor Boris. But most of these species are obviously just below the surface, so an Oscar's not going to pick them up unless they actually break the surface.
I have heard that the Sunfish Union have got hold of the technology and are actually reversing it off of their
reverse engineered.
Yeah, we've reverse engineered it, and they know how to handle it. So, you've got to be one step ahead of the game at all times with these things.
When it was actually all happening, we did propose, or we didn't understand why the race organisers didn't have a boat just in front, just clearing the path.
Yeah, they do that in the Solitaire de Figaro. That's the great thing about doing the Solitaire. You got the French Navy normally escorting you across the channel.
Crazy.
And I remember one time in that race where we were coming up to the shipping lanes, and it was just back to back with tankers going through, and the French Navy just kind of called them up and said back off and let the whole fleet kind of cross through the channel. And I was like,
wow.
That's not going to happen in Brexit, is it?
No chance.
We're like, we'll just open the gap for the French boats and then close it again for everybody else.
Well, I mean, the minis have got in the transatlantic, it's one mother sort of ship every 10 boats or something. I mean, it's we had to have one boat on the water for every 10 boats entered into our little race in the Med.
Wow, yeah, that's
it's huge. And you think about it, this year they had 124 entries lined up, and they obviously can only take 80 or something, but that's 8 boats that have got to be, got to be out there for the entire transatlantic. So take it pretty seriously. Couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that in a Vendee.
No, I mean, yeah, it's obviously they've got points in the race, like the Australian coast, where they've sort of modified the race slightly to bring it within the sort of Australian Air Force and so on, the service there for safety.
Well,
and close enough for Spicey's dinghy.
It's one of my questions, Conrad. The ice limits. Where do you stand on the ice limits?
I'm not a big fan of the line, if I'm brutally honest.
Neither's Spicey.
Good answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting one because, when you put in a sort of effectively what is a lee shore, a physical shore, consistent like that, and then because of the way it's adjusted with the ice limits, I mean, this time round, it seemed to fall smack bang in the track of where the lows split. So the lows generally
exactly
were south of that. So no one really was able to kind of get onto the Southern Ocean train and get ripping. With constant high pressure systems dropping down onto the ice line limit, which were causing these sort of pinch points and transitions. I mean, I'm surprised that we didn't have huge gaps in the fleet, really, because you can imagine boats getting held up by these high pressures, almost like having periods of the doldrums in the Southern Ocean. And so I'm not a big fan. We had a sort of short ice line, sort of waypoints in our race. That you have to cross.
Just for the listener, like the difference, for example, of how much further south you could sail. Are we talking 100 miles, 200 miles?
Yeah, I mean, the lines were about 100 miles long, so you could get you just had to kind of cross one point of that line either end, and then after that you could dive back south. And so Yeah, it meant that you just had a lot more freedom throughout the race. But having said that, I saw 4 icebergs during the Vendee. So, and the guy ahead of me, Sebastian Joss, hit an iceberg.
Hit one, yeah?
Yeah, broke his bowsprit off. And, so it's a really difficult one, isn't it? I don't think anyone particularly likes the ice lines. Certainly when you watch the Volvo Ocean race, you just see the intensity of the boats jibing, every 20 minutes down those ice lines.
Exactly. Well, Seb actually told me he was asleep at the time and he wasn't paying attention. But he took a bottle of wine on board, or it was a gift from someone, he had it on board. And after he hit the iceberg, he just said, "You know what? It's time to drink that wine. It's now cold enough."
It's yeah. I mean, I remember that incident, and we all got the shivers down our back, literally just thinking about what could have happened there.
Yeah.
And you think about how the technology's changed. Then I mean that time, really at night, the only thing you had was a radar. You never really kind of trusted that radar image. It was only ever going to pick out the fairly big bergs. And then, of course, during the daytime, they all magically disappear, and you think, "What's going on?" It's I think they've got to have a limit, but it is definitely changing the nature of the race. And certainly this time round, that ice limit seemed to be quite far north, which is definitely changing the way that people are sailing the Southern Ocean, which may in fact change the way the boats get designed again.
Well, that's pretty much my point too. I haven't been a fan of that limit at all. I liked the way in 04, for example, the gates that you had to go through, but it will 100% change the way you design your boat to go around the world. So I'm with you, Conrad, and to all the organisers of Vendee Club. I know you listen to the show. Time to smarten your act up.
Oh, there it is. Big words from the big man.
Yeah, it's difficult. We talked a bit about this on our show as well. Mike Golding's not a big fan. The question is really, can they get to a point where they can really safely navigate, the boats around and through ice? And I guess that's the challenge. I love the idea of actually, and I think a lot of the sailors quite like the idea of being amongst these things, because it's pretty special. When you've been down there, to see some icebergs, it's part of the journey. And it's I think the wildlife in many ways, to my mind, is much more risky. And not just obviously for the boats, but for the wildlife itself. So I think that's one area that they probably really do need to look at in terms of migration and so on.
Well, that's
a good point.
That's what the Gloria system is they're working on.
No, but remember, Jordan, for example, when we're in Cape Town and we saw essentially all the humpback whales going one way. And that is the migratory thing. So at that particular time of year, everything's moving in that particular direction. That's right. Gloria, on the other hand, this is where it all came out to play, is like, if we only knew someone who could tell us where the whales are going. Well, as a matter of fact, I know Gloria. So who knows? It may come out very soon.
Yep. So I think there's system development going on, is what we're saying. So let's get into a little bit of fun debate here. So, Conrad, you've just spent every day watching the race, looking at all the boats. Suddenly, somebody knocks on your front door tonight and drops the budget for next Vendee. What do you build? Which boat are you taking? How are you going to go around? What are your thoughts? Which one's impressed?
Yep.
Bloody you. Bloody you.
Yeah, good, very good question. Well, I mean, my boat was designed by Guillaume Verdier.
Never heard of him.
All those years ago.
Sorry, who?
Well,
No,
you
go
know,
on.
He features on the
probably-
show. It's all right.
It's a little known. Little known.
I
fella.
think you'd struggle not to perhaps go knock on his door. But he designed. In fact, he was part of the Fino office when he designed my boat. What do you go for? I mean, it's a shame we didn't see Alex in the south. I think that boat and the other boat with similar foils. Armel Tripon's boat, what seemed to be pretty reliable after he had his issues in the Atlantic, and again, we never really saw the potential of that boat either.
Yep.
So I quite like what the Class 40 is doing with these sort of scale-shaped bows. And in fact, talking about budgets, there's a hugely exciting fleet of boats that could be doing 450-mile days in the Southern Ocean. So, yeah, I think I'd probably go down that route. And you definitely, I think, got to build something that's a little bit different. Alex's boats, looks incredible. I don't know why they had quite so many structural problems with the boat, but it would have been interesting to see how they'd gone in the south with both those boats. But something, yeah, I think you're going to go down that route. Certainly, you're going to go with a foil because the chances are, in normal weather conditions, you're going to get left for dead in the Atlantic legs, and of course, the race is really sort of three parts. You've got your two Atlantic legs and your Southern Ocean, and you've got to have a quick boat in the Atlantic.
Hey, Conrad, this may be a little controversial, but do you subscribe to the theory of the rudder breakage with Alex that sent him home? That the actual structural damage was a lot more than everyone knew?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, clearly Alex has been in the game for a long time and knows what he wants to achieve with the race. Maybe the thought of going back into the Southern Ocean with a boat that's not fully prepared, was not something he wanted to entertain. He certainly got the stripes for completing it, and so doesn't really need to kind of risk either himself or the boat further. So they're really difficult to know the damage sort of internally to the structure. Well, I mean, you'd know as well as anyone. Looked to my kind of mind that it was, it looked very light up there. It looked it structurally didn't look like it was quite right, but so who knows, whether the repairs that he made were enough to kind of really sort it out. But I mean, there are probably boat builders out there that can probably tell us exactly what they think. You're possibly one of them, Bicey. You probably have your own view on it.
I mean, by all means, it's much easier on a vacuum table to do a repair as opposed to out at sea. And I'm sure he executed the best he can. But there is a wondering of, look, we've got this, we've got all these glues, we've got all these bits of carbon. Can we effect a repair that's going to get this boat through the Southern Ocean? That was the biggest question in my mind, especially when it all took place.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly used up a lot of materials in making those repairs. So, I guess, did he have anything left in the kitty for further down the line? Might have been a factor. Who knows? I mean, Alex has always, been pretty candid about his ambition to win the race, and possibly he felt that if that wasn't achievable, it was time to head back.
Apparently, rumor has it that Hugo Boss called it. They said you cannot go on because the repair you affected with the carbon fibre weave didn't have a pink thread through it.
Or an inlaid moulded logo.
Love it.
I must say, we've had a bit of discussion with Alex, and we're looking forward to getting him on the show. And once he gets back to shore,
You'll ask him.
Definitely getting him on, and we will ask that exact question.
Yeah,
But it's still unfinished business, isn't it? When you've got a heart like Alex who's so focused on it, he can say that's it. I'm done.
Heartbreaking.
I'm done. I'm not going. I'm not going again. Yeah, right.
Mate, he'll go. He'll go. Mate, it's like doing an over.
In the law of averages, prior to this race, the average age of a winner of the Vendee Globe was in their early 40s, and then of course a young Francois Gabard came along and smashed that out the park with his what was he 29 I think when he won the race, and then Yannick was just finished at the age of 47 or 48. Who knows? Maybe Alex could make a return back in his 50s and get the result. He's certainly if his team and his sponsor and they continue in the way that they have done, he'll have the resource to do it, and so I'm sure we'll see him back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we will too. Plus, 50's new 40, right, Jordan?
Why are you looking at me?
I don't know.
No, I'll say nothing.
You know what I like about you blokes?
Nothing.
Yeah. All right, mate. Now, I guess from what you've told us before the start of the interview, the surf is pumping in the UK, and you have a limited opportunity to get out there and take it on. So I think we'll have to call time here. Anything else we want to touch on before we let our good mate go?
No, there's one thing.
Yep.
Where can everyone find you, Conrad?
Yeah.
On the socials.
Probably the best place most people follow is on Instagram, and although the YouTube stuff is growing, so that's that channel. Christ knows what I'm going to do after the Vendee is finished. Maybe talk a little bit more about some of these other races like the Route de Rhum and so on. But the YouTube, I'm going to continue with it for the now whilst we're in lockdown. We've got Sail GP coming to my hometown in a few months' time. So we might tap a little bit into that as well. But Instagram's probably the best at Conrad Humphreys.
Cool.
There we go.
Awesome, mate. Love your work.
Thanks for the chat, mate.
The waves may be pumping. What's the temperature? Just I'm a surfer, and I've loved my surfing, but there was a limit.
Yeah, and we're right on it. We're right on the
Booties
limit.
and hoods.
No, you're not on my limit, mate. Believe me.
Yeah, it's probably 8 degrees.
Oh no.
Oh, mate.
And what's the water temperature?
No, you got nothing against old mate last week in the ice boating. Shrinkage was massive.
Oh, yeah.
And we were officially told that Lycra wasn't the actual go-to costume that we were all wearing.
No. And in fact, this naked surfing in 8-degree waters, it's not what it's all cracked up to be. I can say that.
No. Well, anyway, we have pretty mild winters here in Australia. You could probably understand. Probably the mainland anyway. But usually, I think 16 or 15 was my limit air temperature. Water temperature usually got down to about 16 or 17, so that was about it.
Wow.
Yeah, well, we never ever rise to 16 degrees. So,
are you serious?
That would be true. That's it.
God, how do you even go out? Like it's 27 degrees in the water where I live, and it drops down to 22.
Yeah. Well, lots of rubber.
Lots of rubber.
You got to be strong to surf in that gear, mate. Yeah. You're like Michelin.
I know. it completely saps your energy. I mean, I've got a 654 wetsuit, so 6.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Mil, and honestly,
I think I had a
hate
5.3 was
surfing in
my
it.
maximum, and that was it for me. 5.3, and I was like, come out of the water, felt like I'd done 2 hours in the gym.
Yeah.
And then there was the surfing.
What was the incident?
What's that, mate?
All right. No, nothing.
Oh.
All right.
All right,
Hey,
guys.
go and have a good surf. We won't be envious of you because of the weather,
No.
but we're envious of you because of the waves. But good to chat, and let's do it again. I want to hear about all the other stories. That's what I want to hear about.
Yep.
Yeah, well, let's do another one. There's lots of yarns to be told. But yeah, it was great to catch up about the Vendee. Obviously, it's a race that's been in everyone's kind of minds over the last few months. So and there's still some hell of a racing to come. It'd be a shame for the race to kind of drop off people's radar, particularly when there's so many boats still out on the race course.
Yeah,
True.
well,
We didn't even touch on that, did we? I mean,
No, still
there's
plenty.
lots of things going on still.
yep. So Armel's just probably next in, and then Clarissa will be the first female. Clarissa Crema is due in. She's got about 900 miles to go. So yeah, cool.
And before you go, hats off to Pip Hare. Her effort to get the media out has been stunning. I mean, it's been fantastic.
I think she's second overall female at the moment.
Yeah.
She's doing really well, and has the potential to beat Ellen's time, as a benchmark for that generation of boat.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which, she achieves that, given that, Ellen set off with a fantastic budget, and a sort of all, really good high performance boat at the time, built for that race. Pip's sailing a 25-year-old boat or a 20-year-old boat, but has gone around the world incredibly quickly, and she's certainly going to smash my time out the park, and mine wasn't particularly quick, but she might well beat Ellen's time, which is just fantastic.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, mate. We'll speak to you later on. Have fun.
All right,
Thanks, Conrad.
good one, guys.
Cheers,
Cheers,
mate.
mate.
Conrad Humphreys, who possibly has one of the best knowledge, currently the best known knowledge of the Vendee Globe, in the sense the way he followed it, all the guests he had on to talk about it, and we recommend everyone to go check him out on all the socials. Just Google it, but you can get on board, see some of the great interviews that he has done. We've all watched them all, but
Not to mention the gear he's got.
oh, mate.
What? Jesus. What a step up the game, Bart Karate.
Yeah, exactly. Looking him straight in the eyeball.
Definitely. I've got a lot of respect for Conrad too. Just in all the stuff he's tried to make happen.
Well, we had the privilege of obviously meeting him during the Volvo on a few different occasions, Jordan.
Yep.
And a guy who has vision,
that's the word.
passion, and he really wants to drive stuff. And I think he's going to be a shaker and remover in the years to come in the yachting industry. So
Cool.
he's a great guy.
Great guy.
And there was a point made, that outside of sort of Europe for a long time, this race really hasn't got the coverage. Well, let's just say this year, to all our Australian and Asian, Pacific and New Zealand listeners, that there's been a lot more work done, and there's one way of doing it and getting onto those, getting onto people like Conrad Humphreys for sure.
And us. I think we take
us.
responsibility.
I'm not going to mention, not going to not mention.
Oh, I mean, all the research we do and all that sort of stuff, yeah.
I actually do a little bit. All right, let's move on.
And we thank you for that. Did you hear that, Boise? Yeah. We thank you for that.
Yeah, my master's degree's not thanking me, I tell you. Right, any Secret Pro news?
Oh, yeah. No, that's a negative.
Yeah, no.
Negative from my side.
There was some other sailing this week. Did you guys know or see that they had this thing called the Prada Cup, the semi-finals of the Prada Cup? Any catch any of that?
Well, first of all, before we talk about the results, mate, how about some more yacht racing?
What do you mean?
4 races, done, dusted.
Done. Gone.
Gone.
What
Go
you want
home.
to see? You want to see it extended out to
Yeah.
Oh, I see where you're going.
best of 16?
20.
Best
Make
of
it
16.
20. Best of 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon that would have been good because it sort of feels. I mean, I know
We're talking 25-minute races.
I know.
No, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a dry rope in the sense that. Oh, shit. Sorry, did I just say that? But we'll just do it on the weekend, shall we?
Yeah, just
no,
get
but
on.
it
Yeah,
could
I hear
be
you. I hear you, Bicey.
a solid 7-day thing. I mean, next week, with what's going to be next week, qualifiers, is
No.
over 2 weekends.
We don't.
A lot more racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not for another 2 weeks for those listening.
Still not talking about the result. I mean, you're right. You're 100% right.
More
You
sailing.
You mentioned a dry route. Well, it's a dry route without foreplay.
Oh, God.
Sorry, listeners.
Right. Okay.
No, Christmas Cup aside,
Yep.
let's just throw that out. How many minutes?
Of sailing.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not talking hours.
We've seen 100
talking minutes.
100 minutes.
Yeah. So, and for all the work that's gone into it and all the time, from American Magic, like they did have expectations of those World Series events that were going to go on and there was going to be a full build-up and rah, but it didn't happen. And you're right. 4 races, boom, done, gone, go home.
But in saying that, Jordan,
I feel
in
gutted
saying that-
for any team that would have gone home.
Oh,
Well, that's it. In saying that,
Totally
it was going to happen to one team. It's going to happen to another team.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't
know
matter
that,
which
but
team it
it's
was. I would have felt terrible for him. I wanted to see him.
Well, the Baccarati bookmakers have taken a major hit.
lucky I didn't set the book up. Or maybe I should have. But shit.
All right.
Are you
let's get on to it.
surprised? Are you surprised, boys? The result?
Can I lead in here? After the incident, and we heard, all the guys talking about what happened, and we know we've been in positions like this before with programs, one way or the other. They're saying everything came off the boat and everything went back on the boat. Now we're talking everything, every wire, every solenoid, every hydraulic pump, every ram, everything.
So much work.
Mate, it's not the work. I don't think it's the work.
Reliability. Like there's
I think
17,000 components.
I just think it's the amount of things that add up to perfection.
Yeah.
No, I disagree.
Oh,
It was that mainsail they put up.
Oh,
Well, that's on the list. That's on the
we'll
list.
talk about that, mate. We'll talk
Mate,
about that.
that to change the looms to put the one design kills, that you could do that. The click
With your
of the
eyes
fingers.
closed. With your eyes closed.
Yeah. But that mainsail they had up, I don't like it.
Well, we do need to talk about that because I think there's a lot of people that we know would love to talk about that as well. But okay, so if you disagree with me on that one, okay, fair enough. I'll take that one on the chin. But I just think there's so many things. So they're so quite intricate, those boats, and I think they were having handling issues. Now, is it the mainsail or is it the flight control? Is it whatever? There's got to be a lot of things there.
Just first of all, though, just stopping there, handling issues. They rounded the top mark doing 53.3 knots.
53.3 knots.
And you know
Holy
what
shit
happens at that
bags.
speed?
Mate, were they?
And then
I was seriously puckering up in the sense of I think they're going to do it again.
And then what they did 10 seconds later, bang.
No, like full tipping.
Yeah, the full one, yeah.
But that, they effectively did. They just caught it. That's all. They were going like
Both they whacked both things. They whacked both foily things down, and just stopped the boat. They just stopped the boat, and that was it.
No,
You're
that
right.
was that was pretty cool.
And an interesting point got brought up. We were sitting around after the racing yesterday, and an interesting point got brought up by one of the guys saying that every single team that scored the highest boat speed didn't win a race in that series.
Yeah, no, that's good. I've noticed that too, actually. It's interesting. And you know what happens at 53 knots on a rudder?
No, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, well, that's
Well, you say we're natural, so
yeah.
maybe we'll just 5.3 knots.
Yeah, at 5.3 knots, it cavitates. And
No,
you lose
I've seen a
control,
natural do 53 knots.
right? Yeah.
On
Yeah,
the trailer.
on the back of a. It definitely wasn't on a Land Rover.
But yeah, there was, that's when cavitation starts to fly down the foils. It starts to run down foils, and it looked like Dean was getting a lot of that going on.
Well, this was the other point that was brought up, and this is something that is interesting. Is you look at the footage of the guys steering the boats, and you had James and Bruni. They were sort of pretty happy with the helm. When you looked at Dean, it was the wheel was vibrating.
Yeah,
and the question came up about the some rudder damage they had in previously. And at that speed. It's kind of like driving a car without the wheel alignment done right?
It looked like that. That's exactly what it looked like. It's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah,
he was fighting that thing, wasn't he?
I can relate to that.
Yeah, with your Land Rover 1951 Series A.
Mate, wheel alignment, doesn't matter.
Yeah, why would you?
All clear.
Why would you?
At 10 mile an hour.
So then, of course, so that mainsail, I agree. First thing, as soon as I saw that, I thought they're going to lack the height. Which they effectively did, and then the foil on the last race, that was just a tragedy for them. That foil not going down.
Well, this comes back to the operational side of things.
That's right, where you were talking about BP and Vicey called you an idiot and abused you.
Well, because I'm used to that.
Well,
anyway,
no, I didn't say that at all.
Well, Jordan
the
said
tapes.
You said that. Jordan said you said that.
Yeah, that's right. We'll go to tapes. I can edit it so it sounds like that.
No, but the point is that that is what I was saying. That those little things, all those little things add up. They must have been. They had no confidence in the boat. That was obvious, right?
So it goes back to Vicey's point. Like if there was more racing and you had another week, they could have done some work on it, and we could have got a lot more excitement. So, you could have made it best of 20 or 21 or something like that, because the racing is that short. It would be really cool to see the boats really work it out. Because that boat was quick.
Yeah, we know that.
That boat was quick going in. The Italian guys saying, I heard Kenny saying that the Italian guys said that they'd improved their boat speed 10%. Since the round robin series, and they look good. They just stopped making mistakes, didn't they? So they look really nice, sailed smoothly.
I saw one of the guys actually being interviewed, and he's like, 4 laps? I can't believe we make 4 laps. Like this is
how unreliable they are.
They're literally on the edge the whole time, and they just hold it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was another comment that was brought up yesterday in discussion around the table of knowledge is that I think Richie Allenson mentioned his brother works for American Magic, and Richie sort of said, "Well, why don't you go out and train more?" And he says, "Mate, we're just trying to hold the boats together.
Yeah,
we don't want to go out and train."
Yeah.
And that was a big comment, which to me. No, that's another facet to it, isn't
it? It was the same the previous cup, the same thing. We heard that too. The foils were just, they were right on the edge of coming down. Everything was on the edge of breaking. So they're, keeping these crazy looking things up and actually sailing them. There has been some seriously negative comments on some social media about American Magic, which there's a lot of armchair experts out there just have no clue about how hard it is to sail these boats and how good these sailors are, and how talented they are and how small the margins are. Like, I cannot emphasise how small the margins are. Like, if you have a 1/15th slower or something like that, that's going to show up hard because no one's making mistakes on these boats and they're used to handling those boats. So to be critical, there's a lot going on. They're very complex boats and,
Absolutely.
It's devastating that... I would have been, as I said 3 times now, I would have been devastated any team going home. We got a lot of mates on every team. Obviously, we'll reach out to a couple of the American Magic guys and see if we get them on board. They they might not be allowed to speak still at this stage.
Right.
But yeah, so travesty, sad, but you know.
Let's look on the positive and side of it. What I loved about it, and there was serious thanks from the American Magic team, was how everyone put in to get them sailing again.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Amount of effort.
Yep.
And I personally just want to congratulate the what you call it, the class, the event and the people involved, because the amount of work to get that boat sailing again was massive, and I think that's been understated a little bit. I mean, they've all said, yeah, we've done good, but mate, can you imagine Tyson and the work that's gone in?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Dylan.
Well worth a chat with Tyson.
I saw Dylan on the tools again instead of flashing his camera. So
instead of flying a drone.
Yeah, no, he was just re-Loctiting the nut on the top of one of the wings of the drone. So
yeah, that was just happened to be in camera range.
No. So then the question becomes: let's talk the positives, as you said, BP. The Italians looked amazing, right? They looked good.
Balanced, and the boat looks stable.
The question is, are they fast?
Well,
that's a good question.
Is stable fast?
I would say yes. I still think the boats are really, really close together, and the starts are critical. Winning the start is critical.
Definitely.
Which I want to talk about. I want to talk about the starts of the last 4 days. But the boat. Prada, if you look at Prada and Ineos in those last couple of races, they were just getting closer and closer and closer. And I think that we are going to see something special in the next part of the event. Who wins? I don't know. But yeah, you're right, Bicey. Is stable fast? I don't know.
To me, the whole time along, Prada has been kind of a constant.
Yeah.
Not an outlier.
Yeah.
And I mean, American Magic initially was, you would say, one of the favourites.
Yeah, they seem to have
is
these.
There some sort of a stepping stone now that the Poms have taken this next step? Have they jumped over the stabiliser being Prada? I really don't know. This is why it's so good.
It comes back to what we were talking about the step up from Ineos, the step up that Ineos took. You know, the discussion about it on that YouTube video that I mentioned last week was, you know, they went from the bendy boom to the straight boom, and then they worked on manoeuvres. You know, is that all it is? Is there something else in there? Obviously, the foil changes. It's all adding up. What are Prada going to come to the plate with?
Are Ineos going to be nervous going up against Prada now? Are the Kiwis sitting there looking at these two boats?
Mate, I reckon there is two of some of the best, well, three, sorry. Mm-hmm. We got Ainsley.
Yep.
Bruni.
Yep.
And Jimmy.
Yep.
Who are probably some of the best helmsmen under pressure that you could ever imagine.
It's going to be...
Don't disagree with you there at all. And I think we've touched on this. And that it's been said that in those start sequences, they're gonna look for Burling. They're gonna look for him, and that's probably where they want to nail it. If you looked at the starts, and let's talk about the starts the other day, Dean Barker not willing to engage. That's my sort of spin on it? Was that a confidence in the boat?
I think it's the boat. I think I reckon there may be, and I'll have to attribute, this is not my thought, I think Nathan Outridge mentioned that they may be off on their software slightly, which at the speeds they close on that line, he could be spot on. So I didn't consider that. But that makes a lot of sense.
Just opens the gate up, though. James and Spittle and Bruni were just aiming at him, and he boxed himself in that corner, particularly in the first two races. Mm-hmm. It was easy pickings for him, you know. And look, we know that the second these boats are in behind and to leeward, you're struggling. You know, you're just going to get sat on the whole way.
But the boat's also difficult to
leeward and behind.
Yeah.
Yep. Most boats.
Yeah, most boats.
But
you
the
know,
boat,
especially these boats.
and especially if it's a difficult boat to sail. So,
exactly.
I'm not putting the boot into any sailors on any of the boats. I think
No,
that
that's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like the listeners need to understand how difficult it would have been. If you match race and you know how tough it is to win a match racing start on a boat doing 3 or 4 knots, and then multiply that by 10, like it's a whole different world.
And I think it does come back to what we said about confidence. I think that whole thing shook the team up more than it would shake me up. It'd shake all of us up.
If I wondered on that last start, I would have discussed the option, and I don't know if it's possible. I would have gone to leeward of Prada, got a hook, and quite a late hook, so deep. So if I ran forward, I didn't lose my overlap. I didn't run and they could drop out the back, and just put them straight to windward. That was the thought I had. So if I could put them to windward and get them off their foils and so I had. If I'd been able to do that, so you drive Prada to windward, drop them off their foils. Doesn't matter if you drop off foils because they can't pull away till you pull away. So, it's just an old basic match racing technique, so because you gain a boat length the minute in match racing, you gain a boat length the minute you put someone into the wind and stop them, and then you get to pull away first, you immediately gain a boat length. And these things, you accelerate at
Just run forward, back the jib, off you go.
Exactly. So I was wondering why no one's done that to try and drop the other guy off the foils. I'm intrigued why we haven't seen that yet.
Well, we sort of saw it in the first 2 races. I mean, it was.
We never saw it in the cats either.
No, but
we've never seen him sole GP.
Jimmy did push Barker off his foils in the first or second race, and but he never came off his foils. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a matter if you do. As long as you get to accelerate first, it doesn't matter if you both come off your foils. It matters if you come off your foils before the boat you're trying to stuff up does.
Correct.
Then you're in trouble, and maybe that's the risk. It's too high risk. But American Magic were in high risk mode anyway because they needed to do something major. They needed to get a penalty. Absolutely needed to get a penalty.
There was a word out that if American Magic didn't win one of the races on the first day, that was all over. That's what they said straight away.
Interesting time.
That's a bit of secret program.
Well, the good thing. The final thing I want to put down is it's bloody good to see. I'm enjoying it.
Yes.
Really? There's no question.
So good.
I love it.
So good.
I love the boats.
We were literally doing an offshore race yesterday, and it's like everyone's on their phone. Watching the bloody cup.
Boss is steering in 35 knots, watching his phone.
Right. Well, for people on the Sunshine Coast, Mooloolaba Bay Yacht Club on the 13th and the 20th are going to have an open invite for as many people as we can fit in there under COVID rules, where I'll be hosting the Prada Cup finals, and we'll have a whiteboard and anyone can throw up questions and we'll resolve the answers as a group. And there'll be.
Can we call in?
Yes, I was thinking that.
Yes.
Can we do a Barkarati cross?
I'd love to do that.
When is it?
We're doing one on the 13th and one on the 20th. And then we'll do it through the America's Cup. And, of course, there'll be a ton of Barkarati Sailors Lager available for everyone.
Why don't we do a live sort of Zoom conference call thing?
Oh,
That'll
we
be
can.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, borders are open, right? Why don't I come on up?
Well,
why don't we?
I was going to say, Bicey, there's a need for showing USAFE on the 18th is booked in. You could just come and crash for a couple of days.
Come up for the wake. Yeah.
I think they've opened up for maybe this could be the first time the three of us could be together.
You're all coming up, beauty.
Yeah, why not?
Fair enough. Anyway,
our two premiers have stopped bloody
arguing.
I wasn't going to say the word together, but they've stopped arguing. So
there you go.
Good.
Anyway, I think it's a great initiative from the Mooloolaba Bay Yacht Club. they're actually going to try and do this. It's going to be open for the members of the public. There's limited seats, given the COVID stuff. But, yeah, it's going to go ahead. Bar karate, Sailors Lager, and talking America's Cup, and it'll be on the screen. And, it should be fun.
Well done, mate.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Sounds good.
Well done.
And there's no reason why you guys can't do that at your yacht clubs as well.
Here. And speaking of which, I would like to inform you, Jet. Well, I'm going to not go in to too much detail, but we are now a sponsor of the yacht club,
Oh, really?
the Malang Regatta Club.
Well, that was always going to happen.
I love it.
I'm not going to inform you guys of the deal because I don't want to have some sort of a financial discussion, but it's bloody good for them.
Awesome. So
Yeah,
we're
how
within
we-
our standard.
So listen to this.
How are we sponsoring anyone when we don't make any money?
Yeah, correct. The last few weeks has been massive. First of all, we had the summer sale.
Yep. You've done well.
Then we had the Malang to Goa yacht race.
Oh, and someone won
There
it, got a
were
record.
2 world records set
Yes.
during this time. The probably the greatest record
Say in
was,
order of importance, please.
Yeah, I'm on the edge here. So, Malang to Goa, monohull record in a Sharpie, monohull overall. Myself, David Snowd, and Rose got the monohull record.
I don't believe you.
Huge.
Don't believe you because I've tried to look up the results and I can't find them. So I think you're just making it up.
That's a negative. We've definitely got the record.
No, congratulations.
And
Good on
we
you.
don't bribe anyone.
Awesome.
I think I had a
have you got
record
a
before
time?
that.
Can you tell us a time and give us?
It was about 2.5 hours. I think.
Give the listeners a bit of an overview quickly of the race because that's probably more important.
Well,
Really quickly.
starts in Malang on Lake Alexandrina,
In South Australia.
Yep, in South Australia, which Lake Alexandrina is essentially the end of the River Murray, which runs through Australia.
Yeah, major.
And then basically, first of all, everyone was dusty as because I'm going to tell you about the second
other world record.
But to get a few splashes of fresh water in your face, pretty good.
Yeah.
Malangor is a great event because it is. You do all your damage the day before.
We've spoken about it before. Everyone in the mangroves, the night before in the reeds. It was so good. And then we're at the yacht club the night before, and it's like, I'll tell you what, boys, I'll just give you as much booze or even more booze than you want. 18 and a half cartons done on one evening.
Nice. That's a good
That
effort.
is not bad.
Yep. That's a record. That's a record.
That is a world record. So
Is it? I thought the Ronston Regatta beat that.
No, in one night.
Oh, in one night.
Yeah. So Bill McGuinness rang me for the McGuinness world record book, and he said, "Look, do you want to put this in?
You want to put it in?
And, yeah." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Can you send some artwork?" Yep, I'm happy to do it. But on another note, there is level pegging for the best regatta consumption. The Ronson Regatta, going well.
Our mate Stephen Brayshaw.
Adelaide's, 20 cartons. Adelaide Sailing Club. Brighton Seacliff, 20 cartons. Adelaide Sailing Club, 25 cartons.
Ooh. Adelaide Sailing Club. And you were a bit worried about that one.
This is one days.
So,
On that front, so the VX1s, they've cancelled their Australian Championships, but they've got their state championships come up, and they just contacted me tonight, and they want to join the Sailors Lager Regatta program, where we take a whole bunch of beers down, and then we just work out how many are left over at the end, and that's it. VX1s are going to be going hard. So
actually, for all
become the
the
regatta
organisers out there, this is how we do it. If you have a regatta, we'll just give you a whole bunch of booze. Whatever you use, we'll charge you for. Whatever you don't, we'll take back.
If you want. Otherwise, just keep it in your fridge. It's up to you. Yep.
Perfect.
Good, and congratulations on that win there, boss. That was good.
Absolutely.
And congratulations to our friends at Ronston for organising that regatta down at Macrae Yacht Club last week. I cannot read results. So many classes. They sold out. Absolutely chock-a-block. So just go and look it up. The Ronston Australia Day Regatta weekend and look at the results. Fantastic job. We're good mates with the team at Ronston and very happy with that. Last thing I've got on my little list, lads, before we sign off is the...
do it. Say it.
What? I was going to talk about the Jules Verne. What were you going to say?
I thought you were going to talk about Etchells.
No.
Controversy. Or shall we leave that for a later?
Well, given
episode?
BP's lamb chops are just about on the table, we might.
I'm happy for you to chat.
So firstly on the Jules Verne, the race is off. So the Maxi Edmond de Rothschild has abandoned. They've damaged their rudder on the starboard float, damaged the shaft. So they can't fix it. So it's over. Even the interesting thing about that though is that they cannot. They're just below Cape Town. They cannot stop in Cape Town because of COVID. They can't actually. Really? No, they've got to sail back.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what they're doing. All right. We have been purposely staying quiet on this whole Etchell thing. For those who don't know what's going on, there is an argument that a mould, one of the moulds for the Etchells, is not legal. And
not legal, not registered.
Not registered. Yeah, but some are alleging that the boat that comes out of it is longer and has less rocker in it. There has been some letters flying around this week, and all I can say, are
the letters public or just to members?
In public, I could read them out, but I think we'll hold off for the moment. But I will.
We are monitoring.
Yeah, monitoring.
Yeah, we're more than monitoring. We're right in the midst of watching.
We did get involved heavily with the laser situation, and this is not too different in that sort of aspect.
Yep.
There's a bunch of theories going around. There's a bunch of people involved that want a certain result, but it's now at a point. It's now at breaking or tipping point, as one would say.
We'll come back to this letter, these letters, but I will say the first letter that went out was from Andy Cumming, who is he's the president of the International Etchell class. Okay, and he wrote a letter as chair of the newly elected International Governing Committee. And so he sent a letter out that looked like it was from the committee, but it really was a personal letter. And that caused quite significant angst. And then there was a response that was sent out by the president of the Australian Association, Mark Roberts. And things are quite heated. What I think we should do, gentlemen, is we will let it play out a little longer because we know a few things that are going on. There are very wealthy people sailing Etchells with very big egos who are very invested in this, and we have received some incredible emails, like heated emails. We've received some amazing stuff. But I guess what we're trying to say is the shit is seriously hitting the fan. And we're not going to provide any view of what...
We're going to be Baccarati.
Right, go on.
That's what we're going to do. We're just going to talk about it, and we're going to make it known to the yachting world. I mean, there's
sat
fors
on
and
it
against.
For a while.
It's been going on for a long time, but it's been brewing for a long time, and there's a lot of reasons why, and of which, as a natural sailor right now, I want to try and make sure that my my position is unbiased and is as is. It's that I want the class to continue as it has been and as it has always.
Well, I think Bicey's solution could work. So Bicey's suggested solution that is you can't sail on a boat that's newer than 25 years old. So you've got to...
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much, if that was the rule that came into place today, we would have won the SA state titles. Right?
Oh, so you had a
Admittedly, we were second, just behind one Robin Deuce and David Snow.
Fritz.
And just caned everyone else. But apart from that...
that's it.
But the solution is give it to World Sailing. They can deal with it.
Yep.
It's in their wheelhouse, so to speak. They can, and it's going to come to there has to be a decision. It can't be done. The decision can't be made, obviously, on people's opinions, egos, money invested,
or business interests, or business interests.
Exactly
right. Now, let's leave it at that.
That's our position.
That is our position, and let's leave it at that, and let's keep the people informed. I'm sure once it gets to a point where there is a resolution nigh, we'll be able to talk about it with the people in play.
The only reason we brought it up now is those letters are a matter of public record. That's it.
Correct. That is true.
And they're out there. None of this fits our motto of sort of only positive. We only want to do positive news and bringing more people into sailing. That's all we care about. So, anyhow. All right, let's leave it at that, boys. Sign off.
Good on you.
It's been a fantastic show. I loved every second of it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Right.
Just think, he's out surfing right now in 8 degrees.
Yep. We've got some still great, a lot of millions of great guests still to come. Thanks for listening, everyone. The numbers just keep getting stronger and stronger. We're really stoked with your support.
I'll tell you what, we're getting close to the big one.
1 billion listeners.
1 trillion million squillion.
See you, lads.
See ya.